We are going live. Okay, we are live. Welcome everybody to the node.js security team meeting. The last one of August. This month never ends. Well, first of all, I would like to ask you to include your name to the minutes. Let me get it on the security working group issue, and I will paste in the chat. Before I start, does anybody have any announcement? I will paste in the chat now. Oh, good. All right, let's move on to our agenda. As usual, we go to the vulnerability review and open SSF scorecard monitor review. Let me check the vulnerability review. We are discussing one vulnerability for V8 recently, and is the issue 151 of that repository. And Richard opened an issue right after to how can we check for V8 vulnerabilities. And I remember that when we were working on the Node.js dependency vulnerability assessment, we decided to skip V8 just because we don't have anyone to ask if that's affect Node.js or not, or it was opening a bunch of issues. I don't remember exactly. If one of you remembers, remember it.
I don't remember that. I think it may have just been that there was no easy way to do it, or because
Okay.
like even if we don't have, like, if they're publicly reported things that some scanners are going to report, we'd still like to be aware of them. So I don't think it was anything like that. I think it must have had to do with something to do with implementation or.
Okay. Yeah, it's because it's commented in the code. I thought we just removed. Let me see the Git blame. Maybe. No, it's a full thing. Okay. I think we will need to go back on a few meetings on YouTube and check, because I'm pretty sure we have discussed it, but I don't remember what was the action. Okay. The other one is let me see if we have another issue. We have the LL8TP. This one basically was opened wrongly. This is the vulnerability was opened telling users that LL8TP 6 was vulnerable, but it's only LL8TP version 8, if I remember. And yeah, that's it.
So I guess that one, somebody's trying to fix that part, right?
Well, I've asked it for to Paulo, and Paulo don't. He don't have access. He doesn't have access to the GR to the GitHub advisory. I don't have it neither to update. So basically that's stale.
But I guess, so who does have access?
That's a good question. I've sent
Was
in the
it?
chat.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I don't know where it was opened, if it was opened directly from the LLTP repository or somewhere else.
Right. Yeah. So that would be the interesting question. I think these.
It seems to be open in LL8TP, but.
Right. So basically, whoever's a maintainer there should be able to do something.
But we are TSC. Technically, we have permission in that repository.
Right. So you'd think that we would, that, yeah.
Okay, I think, let me check. Oh, I think I can do it. Let me see.
Okay. Because, yeah, you'd think that one of us should be able to, like one of the TSC members or one of the collaborators for it should be able to go in and change it.
Let me check. It should be, and okay. Okay, I will change the affected version to 8.0.0 and patch it version 8.1.1. That should be enough.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, some errors. I will check it later. It's opened here. Let's move on. Open SSF scorecard monitor review.
Yep. So yeah, first of all, there is like if you check it out, the issue that is in the conclusion, there is not a lot of changes. There is a positive change on the node.js organization, but it's a little bit tricky because the scorecard API is returning partial results, so it's missing some of the checks. So we we cannot do properly the comparison. So I open an issue for that. So we can get a more accurate version. But overall, since the last week, I was discussing with the web team. So I opened an issue for that, discussion about this dangerous workflow thing. It's a little bit tricky to see if it's really a vector or not, or we should find an exception for that. And also I created several pull requests, to include like to sort like low hanging fruit for us, or like CodeQL, and adding the batch and the workflow for reporting the scoring and so on. So in that sense, we made a big progress. So my suggestion for this week will be like, if we are happy, we can skip the merging of the changes. So I hope by the next week, potentially, before our next meeting, I can rerun the same job. So we can just compare the last 4 weeks instead of the last 2 weeks. So we can get a more accurate result, just in case we are missing something because of the API right now. So yeah, that's overall like a scorecard monitor review, I think, updates.
Okay. I'm looking here. Yeah. So since we can't trust, we can say like this is good or not, right?
Yeah. I assume it's good.
but
there's going to be like a
we
positive
are
changes,
using we are using one API, and that is the Open SSF API that's failing,
Yep.
or is the fork one?
Is the official one. Use the official one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I open an issue and also let's see. I think there is maybe a room also for improve the error codes, or at least the payloads, or somehow. So it's going to be, I think, an interesting discussion with Lauren and the team. So
Okay. So we will close it as
Yep.
as complete, and then next week we see the correct.
Yeah. I will close the
result.
pull request as well, so that way we
Okay.
don't lose the info. Okay.
Yeah. No need to check it now. Okay. Let's go to our regular agenda on security working group repository. The first one is load permission settings from config file. I have included it to the agenda. I am not sure if we have discussed it already, but we had some asynchronous discussions in the issue. But initially, when the permission model was designed, we thought, okay, instead of passing several flags in runtime in the CLI, what about having a config file for that? And let's use the policy.json config file, so we don't need to create one specifically for that. However, after the addition of the .env feature, we can pass it through the node options environment variable. And technically, we don't need the config file anymore. That's not true entirely, because as well described by Bradley, we have environmental variables do have limits. They have argmax limit. So if it means that if someone wants to use the permission model in the node options environmental variable, and they want to pass several flags, several paths, that may not work as expected. So, but I consider it as an edge case, like no need to investigate on load permission settings from config files for Node.js for the permission model, specifically because we only have file system read and file system write as an option for the permission model. If we had other options like net or environment variables or something like that, so I believe that okay, that makes sense. That was my conclusion, but if you guys have any other thoughts, that would be great.
Yeah, I don't have any specific thoughts. I guess it would be like, is there any feedback from users in terms of issues or not? Like that would probably be how I would drive it, right? As an
Yeah.
experimental thing, people can try it out, and if they're like, like this is great, but command line's hard, that might be something that would tip the balance for me anyway.
Yeah, so I will leave this issue open. I will just remove the label from the agenda. So if someone in the community objects or really want to have it and show their point of view, that's the right place. Okay. The next one is outbuilt for dependencies. I think we don't have updates this week as well, because this is an initiative that nobody took. Actually, Michael was taking lead on that, right, Michael?
Yeah, I put together the description of it, and I know that like I was going to look at one of the WASM ones, but this is a great place if people are interested in jumping in. I would say, we've got the list of dependencies. And if somebody's interested, maybe like get in touch with me and we could brainstorm like what the process might be, or what it's kind of like we want to end with some output, which we haven't necessarily defined exactly what that output would be. So the first time through will be the kind of learning documenting process. So let's say I still have one in my backlog to do, which I can do some of that work. But if anybody's interested in starting to look at some of them, let me know and we can figure out how to move forward for sure.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, Marco was taking a look on this, right?
Yes, absolutely. I would like to, if we make this into an initiative, I would like to champion it. That's the thing.
Right. Well, I think we decided to make it an initiative, right? So if you're happy to be the champion, I think anybody can correct me, but I think it's ready to get started.
Yeah.
And I would love to contribute as well.
Oh, great.
So maybe Marco, if you want to be the champion, if you can set up like at least the three of us could get together, and anybody else who's interested, a short meeting to say, okay, what are we going to do when we do the audit? What should we look for? What do we want to write down? That kind of stuff. I think the three of us brainstorming would be a great start.
Yes, that's good. I will. I don't know how to set up a meeting, but I think we can talk about it.
Yeah, the three, like you can probably grab our emails from. Is everybody's email on the security working group? I'm thinking like that, or maybe, yeah, that's probably the easiest. If like the people who've said, hey, I'm already interested, if you can grab their emails, or here, let's just paste it. I know.
Yeah, paste in the chat because
it
is not available there.
Ashish, if you can paste yours in, then.
Yeah, we can probably do a Thursday that's not a security working group.
Yeah, just come up with like a couple times. With three people, it shouldn't be as hard to come up with a few times that look good.
All right.
Well, thanks for volunteering. That's great.
Okay, so moving on, issue 953, initiative for CII best practices for Node.js project. So as a recap, we have concluded the entry level, and recently we have submitted the silver level, and I think we got approved, right?
Not really. We need
Okay.
to. We asked Rod to do the update, so that's accurate. The thing is, we need to do some changes because there were missing like some URLs. Like for example, when you say like non-applicable, so the idea is to suggest also why, so you can explain a little bit more, and also some fields require some URLs. So somehow when I copy paste it in the Markdown, I forgot to include it, but there were also some mismatching in some of the formats. So there is a pull request ongoing, which is the 1087. So I think I got already like 2 approvals. But yeah, if you want to have a look, there is only one topic here open. Let me share the screen, it will be easier. And also I jump to the other one. So it's going to be like desktop 1, I think. Yeah. Yeah, I think you should see now the pull request. Okay. Yeah. So basically there is one requirement for us. That is to put the batch actually on the website or on the README of the project. So we discussed it previously. So in the README is not possible to be there. It has been already in the past. So technically we meet the requirement for the passing level years ago, but now we should include it. So there is an issue going with the website team to see how we can, just include this or in the footer or somehow. So there is, I think, the big discussion, the big blocker for us there is like how to actually visually make it appealing in the current website and how to fit it basically. So yeah, if you want to discuss or maybe propose a pull request with that, will be interesting. If not, in the meantime, I think it's okay just to put the issue referencing for that. So when we solve the problem, people will know. So it's technically also if meet or unmeet, but yeah, technically that's the only, I think, tricky question. The rest of the changes are kind of okay, some typos here and there, but overall it's okay. Just reinforcing a lot on and recapping from previous discussions on the all pull request. So that should be for this pull request. And side note on this, there is the initiative for the goal level ongoing. So it's less questions than before. That's the good thing, but there are a little bit more interesting in terms of discussing and potential initiatives for us. So there is the pull request that it was for a draft for a very long time, which is the 956. Now this one become like a official pull request that feel free to comment and so on. I already started to comment and to put some discussions, so feel free to join the discussions and so on. There are some questions that Jordan is fighting back with the OpenSSF to remove them because they're a little bit tricky. For example, there's a requirement, kind of a requirement to include the license on each file of the project and the authors and so on. So you have like a more consolidated, I think, intellectual properties and copywriting and so on. But yeah, we are fighting back for that one, and there are other requirements here. I think there is one especially interesting for us, which is this one, which is basically if how we perform like a security review of the project. So I remember that when we started discussing the initiative at the beginning of the year, Michael suggested that there would be some companies or / people interested in helping us to audit things. I get like the website or maybe the project and so on. And there was a challenge for us in the way of, if we really want to onboard them, like it's going to be like a lot of work. So yeah, but I'm thinking that maybe that can be one initiative, also discussion about the initiative for maybe for the next month or whatever, try to see if we can audit a little bit the project. Now that might seem interesting for the gold badge. Aside of that, the rest is just feel free to keep discussing. I don't think there is any specific question right now that is a blocker and we should discuss online. We can potentially discuss most of this offline.
The only question I had back on the silver one was the hardening mechanisms. Like, I see the thing that says like the final user has the power to decide. So that I don't quite understand how the user would decide on that one, but I also don't really know what they mean by hardening mechanisms.
Yeah, there is, I think, let me see, maybe it's here or maybe it's in the other one. Let me see.
Like maybe we talked about it already, but like that one is one where it seems like,
yeah,
either we do it or we don't kind of thing.
Yeah, and let me see if I made the changes here. Hardening mechanism.
And I just made this comment immediately.
Oh, is the comment here? Ah, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I think I maybe documented, if not here, maybe in the gold one. Let me see. Yeah, there was some like well previously discussed. Maybe this link is the good one. There's a little bit of chaotic between all the discussions and
Right.
yeah, I think I didn't include it, but was part of the discussion. Yeah, so basically the idea is, if I remember well, I can find it out because it's a full description on the motivations for that question. So if I remember well, basically the idea is like when you produce the piece of software that the end user will use, basically you try to avoid as much as possible, like typical defects that you might include, So like, for example, you don't should use like weak encryption or things like that. But in our case, I think it's very similar to other previous one. Like you are not using like weak cryptographical things. And it's like, well, we don't use it. Like for example, for SSL and so on. But we allow you to use, if you want to use MD5 for encrypt your password, nothing is going to stop you. So somehow I think it's like more related to the threat model. Like we provide you Node.js until certain level, and we grant that there are some stuff that you should provide. Like for example, that the environment is kind of safe and so on. But
Maybe,
yeah,
So I think we just maybe need a bit more of an explanation, like the link to like here's the description, and
Yep.
if the answer is this isn't really in this context, it's not hardening within Node itself, it's hardening within the applications that use Node. Then we
I see
could
the point.
basically, that would make.
Yeah, I will find out where was the link, because it was a link with a full explanation. But yeah, I will link that in the discussion, so you can see that.
And then maybe we can come up with something where you read through, and
yep.
2 months from now I'll remember, I can reread that so I don't ask the same question. Oh, wait a second.
Yeah, and also that's a good question, because I think in the gold you put a comment saying like, yeah, let's see how we can collect also the comments, because I think at the end the output is like a markdown file, which is kind of okay, but at the end it's like, yeah, we miss a lot of the discussions happening somehow in the pull request itself, right? So not very sure how to materialize, but I like the idea, because right now, for example,
you already had some comments that were like explanation, right? Like it would say like NA, but then you had a comment below it that said because blah blah blah. I think we should just have like the NA, and then below it, like try and have something which captures why, like that discussion and why we believe that's the case, because that'll be really useful, because I'll never remember it down the road, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, maybe what we can do is as each of these comments has like their own link kind of thing, and we group the discussions on that. Maybe I can include in the final markdown something like discussions and then put the links there, so we can just follow up. So for example, in this case of what happened with the hardened mechanisms, like this discussion, so we can see easily at least jump to the discussion.
Yep.
Okay. I will work on that.
Just one thing, there is a comment from Tobias that I could go top on the go to level. Yes, this one. This is the project must have performed a security review with the last 5 years. How would that be possible in a project like Node.js?
Yeah, that's a big thing, like huge
so
effort.
Yeah, it's a huge effort. So like the foundation through the OSTF, like the funding they got from the Sovereign Tech Fund, that is one of the things they have on the list. So they would pay like a contractor to come and do the review. The challenge I think we have on our project is like, okay, well, who's going to read the review, address the comments, fix things? So I'm lobbying for, if they can fund a review, that's great, but can they also fund somebody on the Node side to actually fix the things, right? And to be the other side, so that we don't just get here's a list of things you need to do, and then we got to try and find somebody to do it.
But it's not clear for me how this secret review will be performed. Like someone looking to all the code, or dynamic tools, or some tools that will do it.
I don't know what, like, there's a
Yep.
company who has done a bunch of these. And so I don't know what they do. That would be part of, we'd have to understand what they do. I assume that they do try and do reviews of the code, but I got to imagine they've got like some automated tools, and because like you said, like
Yeah.
manual pouring through the code just seems like it would be too much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be at least non-reliable.
Yeah.
We could
Yeah, go
ask
ahead.
for I think like a presentation. You know, we could go back and let the foundation people say, hey, like the security team was like, well, what would one of those reviews look like? We could probably ask for them to come and give
Yeah.
a
Yeah. I think
So
it's.
we will have, sorry.
Go ahead.
So we will have possibly we will have someone to do it, or it's just a speculation.
Well, so my understanding is through the Sovereign Tech Fund, the foundation got a bunch of money. One of the things they have on their list is to do these security reviews.
Okay.
So I don't think they've chosen which project they'll do security reviews on yet. If the node project said, hey, we're interested, I've expressed some concern, like to say, well, that sounds good, but we'd also like some funding for actions. So at this point, I don't think they've chosen. It's not like certain that the node would get chosen or not chosen. It's part of us. Like, I think we need to be involved in that decision to say yes, we want one or not one. I expect that node would be on the higher end of the list in terms of ones they'd like to do one on. So it's kind of like, if the project said we absolutely want one, I think there'd be a good chance, right?
Yep.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
I think a good next step, if we think it's helpful, is we could open, like, what I'd suggest is we could open an issue in our repo that says, like, learn more about potential security audits. We could then mention the people from the foundation, say, we know that this Sovereign Tech Fund is discussing doing these audits. Could you have somebody come to the security working group and give a presentation on what that would look like and answer questions? And I'm pretty sure they'll say sure, right? And then we can set that up.
That would be great.
Yep,
Yeah.
that would be
For
super
the
good.
next meeting, right?
I don't know about the
Maybe.
next meeting, but we can start that process and see what they say.
Okay.
I
Let
think
me
that's
create
good.
that issue.
Okay, so yeah, I'll take that on
Yep.
and turn it.
Yeah. Also, we
I'll take that on
can.
as a thing to do.
Yeah. Also, we can take the opportunity to audit other parts that are maybe not Node.js core itself, but maybe we can, just check out, as we are going to change, for example, now the way how we distribute the binaries. So maybe we can just finish the process, audit it, for example, and we close that door as well, saying like, yeah, that was the last time we reviewed it. By the way, something interesting that I just discovered recently is like the Linux kernel itself has the golden badge. So sometimes it's interesting to have a look how they manage the same situation. So, for example, what they say about the 5 years is something like, yeah, there's a lot of people actually doing the audit of the kernel, looking for these kind of things all the time. So technically, I think also solve the problem. Why it's not like a, in terms of systematically driving by a company in a specific time or something like that, building a report. But overall, there is thousands of people checking out, finding vulnerabilities, reporting vulnerabilities. So in that sense, I think works. I mean, maybe if you have a small library, it will be trickier. But if you have a, like a big library where actually the people are reporting to you CVEs and so on, maybe that can fit, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's I mean, their answer are a bit confusing for me, because they say a lot of people's auditing the kernel all the time, but I don't know if they're mentioning the open source developers that just go to the code and fill a few bugs and open HackerOne, like the same as happens with Node.js, or they find someone to be dedicated on security reviews. That's not clear, right?
Yeah, that's not clear. Side note, we can ask also support from Jordan on this one to see like actually what can be the requirements potentially for this. I think might be a good option. Yeah, but yeah, overall it's tricky, yeah, because the size of the project is huge. So auditing, and also it's changing all the
Yeah.
time. So
Well, if you open an issue just about that, we can mention Jordan, we can mention the Sovereign Tech Fund and possibly get a talk from them.
Yep.
And discuss on a separate issue, because that I think will take some time, because even if we decide, okay, we must have this secret review on Node.js, this will be a new initiatives and this will take quite some time.
Yep.
I guess you
Alright.
want to also discuss it with TSC members, because if it involves money,
for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Do we know if these
That's also
security
good.
reviews are scoped or it is for the entire project? Can we just scope it to like specific features, like new features, or it needs to be for the entire project?
I think it's for all the source code. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me say something on the show details. Well, I see. Let me see, because it's like it can be done by project members, or okay, so it can be us or other people. It might be supported by some tools, right? Like dynamic and static analysis. So in that sense, we have some of that covered, right? Like just by CodeQL and stuff like that will be okay. And yeah, must be in human review to identify problems, specifically with the design. So I think technically in terms of design, we cover that with all the mechanisms for the pull request review and so on, because at least there are 2 or 3 people always checking out the pull requests and the changes, and most for the critical ones. So in that sense, maybe, specifically for things that tools cannot detect. So that makes sense. That's where we do the human review of the pull request, right? So yeah, maybe technically the Linux answer is correct here, although it seems a little bit ambiguous, as you said before, but I think technically it's meeting. But yeah, I will ask for a clarification on the requirements, just to be sure, that is what the people expect.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's great. Do you have any other issue in the code level that we need to discuss?
No, I think that was the only one that I identified like as a potential initiative or something in that direction. The rest, I think we can just check it out, the pull requests, and contribute to the discussions, accept my suggestions if you are happy with them, and so on. And so yeah, I think overall there are like 20 questions or something, so it should be faster than others.
Okay. So if any of you have some time to go to this issue or this pull request and answer, or just +1, plus -1, if you agree with determined action, that would be great. You can do it asynchronously. No worries. So let's go to the next item in the agenda is the permission model roadmap. No updates this week. Automation for security release process. Also no updates. Actually, there's one update that is the foundation will create a form that people will be able to apply to get the 39,000 funding to working on this initiative. So yeah, that would be good. The form was not created yet. It will be created by Ben. I'm not sure exactly when. And the next one is the assessment against best practice, but this is basically the CAI best practice. So I think that's it for this week. But if you have any other idea, do you have anything else that you want to discuss this week? An idea? I think we are good, right? So just one thing, I'm creating a presentation, actually just adapting the presentation for Open Source Summit, and then mention all of you in the presentation for Open Source Summit. just a bubbles with your image and your name and company. So I will share the slide with you when we finish. So just if you want, if you agree, having your face distributed globally. Okay. That's it. Thank you, folks, and for joining. See you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
See you. Bye.